On Thursday, I returned to my previous ministry stop at All Saints Church down on River Road to preside over a funeral service for a faithful, pastoral, and funny office volunteer. Mary died a couple years shy of 100 years old. She loved building community. She did this by bringing people together in various size settings. Today's gospel text is often read at funerals. Do not let your hearts be troubled, are familiar words to us. And we hear Jesus say, "You know the way." And the disciples own the fact that they have no clue. Then Jesus tells them, "I am the way and the truth and the life." And still they're like, "What?" Soon he will leave for heaven. And think about heaven this way, as the home that God is building in us. So Jesus continues to surprise and challenge his disciples. This keeps us in good company today with them. We may ask the question, why this man died so young, in his early 30s. Surely he could have done so much more if he only lived longer. Yet we're still here today unpacking those few years that Jesus had on earth. I invite you today to look at another life with me next to Jesus's. Franz Schubert, whose music blesses our spirit today, had a short life too, ending at age 31. Schubert was born into a family of teachers who were also musical. His brother started teaching him the piano at age 5, but quickly he passed his brother's ability, and the father stepped in and continued the lessons. At age 8, he took up the violin and the organ. Big deal. What 8-year-olds are not taking organ lessons already? And then Salieri, a famous Vienna composer, was so impressed with his voice instrument that he gave Franz a choral music scholarship and enrolled him in the Imperial Seminary. His music foundation kept building and building. 1 Peter today says to come to Jesus as living stones. Let yourselves be built into a spiritual house. We still gather to hear Jesus' words to hopefully add to the building stones in our own lives. Franz's musical ability was built up of a cornerstone that started in his own home and then would spread to larger settings. You see, a spiritual building comes from God's Spirit moving like a musical composition and is a lifelong project, taking us together from one dwelling place to another of a shared experience. During his life, Schubert hosted small parlor concerts held in people's homes. And this tradition continues today with performers who wish to celebrate him and his music in events that he called Schubertiads. But friends, it seems that people do not gather in smaller settings as much as they often did. And I see the beauty of a smaller setting that allows us to be affected by our conversations differently together, because it allows our shared experiences to really be marinated in the conversation. For such gatherings enables us to recognize and to celebrate the spiritual homes that live inside of each of us. You see, God calls us to be in and to build communities of all sizes in our life. It is there that we can be exposed to God's moving spirit within us and others. Franz kept building upon the gifts that God had blessed him with in those different settings. He would return to these home settings to share with those also seeking to experience the way that he made and wanted to share his music. It is believed that he knew that his own life would be ending soon because of ongoing health issues. And yet 200 years later, his fans continue to celebrate him like we are today in this setting as well as in these smaller settings of the Schubert Triads. Friends, the disciples struggled to know the way to follow Jesus. The setting today is the Last Supper. And Jesus, too, knew that his life was coming to an end, and he wanted them to know the way. So to know the way, they could continue on. And Jesus promised to be with them when 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name. For it's in community they could share on a much deeper level his lessons next to unpacking their own life's experiences. You see, we celebrate Jesus and we share his spiritual home when we bring him into any setting. These don't have to be formal liturgies or worship or concerts, but a chance to share. Jesus said, "In my Father's house there are many dwelling places." I invite you to think about it this way with me. How many different instruments do we have here today? You might want to shout it out. 14, and then 15 with the organ, right? But actually, every voice that is shared from our choir and in our pews is its own instrument. Each of us has an instrument, a spirit of music that is housed in us. I decide whether I will sing. We share Schubert's music as the way he hoped. It is not just his music then, it becomes our music. To quote a source, beyond the smaller gatherings and the pieces that he created for those, this young composer wrote chamber music and symphonies, masses, and even operas. Yet he apparently viewed the larger works as opportunities to learn and not meant for public performance, although they are still beloved around the world. And then there was this surprise that happened in the years that followed his death, where even his closest friends were unaware of just how much music he had composed. Music upon music was discovered. It was like a vault of treasures from his dwelling place revealed this to us in the world after his lifetime. So when Philip asked Jesus, "Lord, show us the Father, and we will be satisfied," Jesus says, "The Father dwells in me, works through me, lives through me." What dwells within any instrument? the ability to make a sound, and with greater understanding and practice, the ability to make music. We each have an ability to become a dwelling place of God, to be known through us. And God still challenges us to gather more often. There, our spiritual house can grow through the connections with all other dwelling places when those who might come and gather with us, whether 2 or 3 or 2 or 300, God promises to be there with us, helping us to understand all that we have been blessed with and encouraging us to come time and time again as a gathered people to share his gifts, to share our experiences, to share our life. Amen.